What's up guys, I'm BTC. We just got a pretty big update on the Symmetra rework. She's getting a brand new primary attack, better secondary, new sentries, and overall a massive damage boost. We've got so much stuff to get to, guys. Real fast, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, because right here is where you'll always find the latest and greatest in Overwatch content. So subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of it. Alright, so Jeff Goodman has been talking a ton about the Symmetra changes. So first up, he says, we've currently moved her to defense. We tried a healer version, which had her turrets healing instead of dealing damage, but it felt super awkward, especially with how fast Overwatch moves. That said, we are playing with a new way her turrets deploy. Instead of having to stick them directly onto a wall herself, she can now fire an undeployed version like a projectile, which sticks to walls, ceilings, etc. Once it sticks, it will unfold like it does on the wall currently when she builds them. This helps for a bunch of reasons, but one of the big ones is that it makes it a lot easier to play her on offense, or just be able to pre-position her turrets much more easily and quickly. Currently, they will travel effectively infinitely in a straight line. Think of them like Pharah's rockets. Their projectile speed isn't super fast though, so enemies can see them coming. However, they currently cannot shoot them out of the air, but we're still iterating and may allow this. Now, in addition to how you use them, the turrets, the mini sentries themselves, have been significantly buffed. From what I can understand, they're about twice as powerful as what they were before, but they also have a lot more health. So he says there are other changes to the turrets as well. We've lowered the max number to 3, both that she can hold and that can be deployed, but we've increased their damage and slow potential. They also have 30 health currently, though that number will probably change over time as we test. They still die quite easily, but there is a significant difference between dying to any damage and just having very low health. So right now, you can have Winston just kind of like sweep over an area with his attack and it will destroy every single little mini sentry there. But with this, it's actually going to take him a little bit more. So Winston's DPS is 60 per second, and if they have 30 health, that means it's going to take him at least half a second of focusing on any of these turrets in order to get rid of them. So you're not going to be able to just sweep it like you did before. You're actually going to have to aim and try to damage each of them, at least within the area. So if they're all bunched up, then you can still hit them. But if not, you're going to have to focus on each of them by themselves. And there was a little bit of concern about, well, aren't they still going to, you know, be a little bit less useful because you only have 3 instead of 6? And he said quite the opposite. He said, so far we found that the turrets are much more powerful this way, not less. Keep in mind, it's almost like you're deploying 2 turrets at a time now, since they are much more powerful individually. You lose a little bit of the map coverage, but overall the turrets are actually more impactful, not less. Plus, spending less time redeploying the turrets frees you up to do other things at the same time, rather than spending so much focus on moving around trying to keep your turret nest up somewhere useful. We're going to come back to the mini sentries and also the teleporter stuff in a second here, but the primary and alternate damage has been changed as well. She is getting an absolutely massive damage increase. So when talking about the lock-on, he says, we're still trying some things, but what's working pretty well right now is her primary fire changed to no longer lock on, but works as a straight beam that is fairly thick and has increased range. It still has the potential to gain extra damage by dealing damage like it does now, but instead of going 30, 60, 120 DPS, it is currently 65, 130, 195 DPS. However, it now takes a combined 2 seconds of damage to level up to the next tier of damage instead of only 1 second. This means the weapon has significantly more potential, but is more difficult to get to its max power. Also, when hitting a barrier, it currently generates ammo instead of consuming it. This means not only is she good at taking down barriers themselves, but she is good at just generating charge off of barriers and using that charge to take down enemies as well. Her alternate fire is still a charge-up large projectile, but it has a bunch of important changes as well. First off, it charges to a max charge in 1 second, down from 2 seconds. Next, the projectile speed has increased significantly. Currently, it has changed from 10 meters per second to 30 meters per second. Lastly, instead of piercing enemies, it now impacts enemies, environments, and explodes, dealing area damage around it. We've been heavily iterating on how much damage this ball deals now, but a direct shot has been hovering in the area of 130-ish, with a large percentage of the damage coming from a direct impact rather than the explosion. So to give you an idea of how much damage this actually is, a fully charged Zarya does 190 damage per second, and a fully charged Symmetra does 195. Now, obviously, there's a different way that they both get that charge. For Symmetra, it's going to take her 4 full seconds of attacking enemies without missing in order to actually continue to build up that charge. It's not going to completely drop off instantly. She just has to deal 4 full seconds in order to get up to that full third charge of 195 DPS. As far as her right click, I don't know exactly how fast some of the other projectiles go, but most of the projectiles, like Junkrats or Soldier's Helix or any of Pharah's rockets or any of that stuff, that does 120 damage, and Symmetra's right click is now going to do 130 damage, plus whatever little splash. But it looks like the difference is going to be that where the Helix and stuff does most of the damage with the kind of area of effect stuff, the Symmetra right-click is going to be more direct damage. Alright guys, so they are just getting rid of whatever little support she had and just turning her into a DPS monster. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy that the lock-on is going away, but I think Symmetra is going to be a lot better on attack than defense, for the simple fact that if you have an Orisa or a Reinhardt that's guarding a choke point, a Symmetra can now just go right up to that barrier and just constantly attack it, massively build up that damage, you know, all the way up to 195 DPS, which is just crazy, and it doesn't use any ammo while she's doing it. Like, her energy actually builds as she's attacking those barriers, so it's going to be just absolutely crazy. I think this is going a lot into what Blizzard was kind of worried about was going to happen, which was the tank meta, and they wanted to do things, which is why they buffed Mei a little bit and why they buffed Reaper. They wanted to prevent any sort of tank meta from really getting out of hand. And it looks like Symmetra is now part of that anti-tank meta, where she's going to have very, very, very strong barrier-busting abilities. The ability to just throw those sentries anywhere she wants is also going to be really strong. It's going to be really good for helping to chase down people that are trying to get away as well, because when someone is running away, Symmetra can now just throw that little mini sentry onto the wall way ahead of her, and it will start slowing down whatever that enemy is so that the rest of your team can catch up and take him out. So that's going to be really strong, and also just being able to throw that sentry anywhere. So if you're on the attacking team, right, you see the capture point, you can just throw those little sentries out to kind of distract and disrupt those defenders on the point while your team is trying to move in. That is going to be very powerful. And the last thing to talk about, which they haven't explicitly shown us yet, but they've kind of hinted at it, is that the teleporter is going to be moved from an ultimate to a regular ability. And it's probably going to have something like a 15 to 20 second cooldown, and you just drop it wherever, and it can only teleport like 1 or 2 people at most. I'm thinking it's probably only going to teleport 1 person, but you'll be able to just dump that down, and then whoever happens to get taken out on your team can quickly come back if the fight is still going on. But it's not going to be this kind of really huge thing where your entire team can come back. It's kind of like a bad res almost, but since she's not in the support category anymore, it's not really going to be like that big of a deal, because again, it's more supposed to just kind of help a little bit, like a little bonus to your team. There you go, guys. Massive, massive damage increase to Symmetra. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out my Discord server. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter. The links for that stuff are down below. And remember, always, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.